Good morning. Let me just prepare tissue so if anything goes wrong. I'd like not to switch my personality up when the camera's on. I'd like to focus on what I really want to try and say. This video may have some stuff to do with writing, but I think I'll get there eventually. I have things to touch on in the meantime. I have my influences. My influences recently have been Camus. Watching some stuff on the Battle of Hastings and Stamford Bridge. Discussing a lot about the Ice Age, post Ice Age, pre Ice Age, recent 300,000 years of not human, even history. And what else has there been? There's been so much. There's been so much, and I can't even describe it. I can't even come back to it, but obviously the thing that's influenced has been there. But, I can't. I want to touch on why life somehow simultaneously has so much and so little meaning. Little, not in the way that I might think. So I'm going to try and sort my thoughts out and say this. I feel as though we in the now are far too prideful to think that this society, here, now, means so much. I feel as though we've incurred all of our purpose into the now, into this, just as the Romans did, just as the Babylonians did. There seems to me this pride in the heart of many. And that sounds so egotistical to say, but I primarily mean government and politics. There seems to be so much of an emphasis there, and so little of an emphasis of the whys, the whats, and the big questions. Whereas I feel as though the little the littleness of the meaning comes from the fact that every society has felt the way our society has felt important. And where I fall into that picture makes me fall into an even bigger picture. I, like every other person, holds a certain degree of meaning to his life which supersedes other people's. Yet, simultaneously, I wish I would die for another man. I wish I would put my life on the line for another man and die for them. I wish I had that honour, that dignity, and that respect. Yet I still believe that the purpose and the actions of my life hold so much importance that I spend most of my day on me. And I'd like to say Camus' idea of, as he puts it, obviously it's on the front cover of the book, right? There's but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that's suicide. I feel like with his consequences, his three consequences of absurdism, I totally, I totally get that, and I do feel like that resonated with me. That inside the absurdism, it is either to dream or to die. Obviously it's not that way. I'm not using his terminology, so it's gonna have a barrier here, even through him to me to whoever might watch this. There's gonna be a language barrier, but to dream or to die, Camus' absurdism seems to have this extreme importance on life and the actions of the now. He talks about quality and quantity, right? And he actually touches on the fact that it's not about the one big qualitative experience. It's about as many quality, quantitative, no, yeah, quantitative experience. Yeah, yeah. It's about the quality of the many quantitative experience that we should try to strive for a good life, a good long life, and in that there holds our meaning that we as an individual strive to interact with life itself, not to be life, but there's in my head right now there's far too much meaning everywhere else in life that I can't sit back and say solely that my life has the most amount of meaning. You know, the way that I look at it deeply is that I feel connected to the Britain, you know, the early Britannian uh, societies, tribes, you know, the Anglos, the Celts. I feel just as connected to them as I do to this society. And I don't feel connected to many others. You know, I'm not exactly a Roman guy. I don't feel like I'm under the guise of a, a Roman society. It doesn't do something to me, nor the Greeks, you know. So I do have my time and place, but I'm not so connected to them either because I feel connected to one as an overall. I feel connected to humankind, you know, truly connected to humankind. And I know that the vastness of the meaning that I have in my life, that every moment and every person in every generation to ever exist equally has that vast meaning. So, what I'm trying to say is, my life is so important to me. But I don't believe that we ever have people in a society who solely made things the way they were. You know, I don't think we have the Newtons, the Keplers, the Einsteins, and the Hawkins. I don't think they made society. You know, I don't think that their impact. I don't think if you look at the field of literature that you have one or two authors that made society. In fact, it's through these interdisciplinary, you know, thoughts that society seems to run under this like this road that goes in this on this direction, and I think each of them have their importance and their time and place, but not one is the be all end all. We all share this vast, and it's almost unending. This unending greatness, this meaning that serves to which can be humbling, by the way, because to me, I'm almost saying that a man in an Anglo-Saxon tribe, as the Romans are doing their thing, as the Celts are doing their thing, and so on, you know, a man in the middle of Babylon, messing around, whilst his whole society is moving around him. A Neanderthal is sitting by a fire eating. You know, Chesterton in his early 20th century. Camus, I think he survived past the war, right? The second one. Or was it just before? I don't know. That all of these people have such meaning, but all that everyone does. Everyone does. My auntie who just really she lives at home for the most part with her husband. She has just as much meaning in her life than anyone could attribute to Hawkins. You know, because there's a disconnect between mankind and the universe, but there's a connection to them in the same way that Camus talks about the absurd. That we're equally just as part and far away, part with the consciousness, far away with being, and just like, but simply being as we are, as he puts it, especially since his philosophy is in a world without God, we're sort of very disconnected. Now, this seems like the video to warrant an explanation of my beliefs, but I'll just say that I don't really want to make this channel about my beliefs, faith-wise, or anything to do with that, but this is getting so close to it. And I want to say maybe that has also been a big influence. And it seems to be this connection and these dots, but also this vast meaning that, as I look at the Battle of Stamford Bridge and I'm looking at this Viking, I could say, oh yeah, this guy is that Viking who got piked from below and his king died. That's a cool battle to look on. But recently, as I'd been looking at it, I didn't put myself in the position of the Viking, but I put myself in the position of the time. And I felt the importance of what was going on. And I'd felt the importance of Haston. And I'd felt the importance of so many minute, you call them minute, but so many different points of history, so many different processes of thought, philosophies, religions. I'd felt them all. Not all, of course, not all of them, but all that I'd felt them. And I'd sat for a minute to try to think about the meaning of my life. And I don't believe there's a lack of meaning anywhere. Anywhere. I do believe there's things that mean more than others. I do think that a random rusty bike in a scrapyard, it has less meaning than, in my opinion, a human life that is striving for its own personal greatness. But that bike has a story. That bike has history and a record of meaning. It's a vessel of meaning, in the same way that we are. But obviously it lacks consciousness, so where that lies, my mind isn't truly made up. I believe that humankind has more importance than anything else in the universe. But particularly because of our position, being sort of in between the possibly meaning nothing in the universe and possibly meaning everything, I take more to the everything. And that's why me and Camus separate without a doubt. I take so much meaning on the connectivity of humankind, the oneness of humankind, and the metaphysical eternal ascension of mankind. I do believe. And I think we're so important. But not only that, I see more importance in that bike. I see importance of that daisy. You see these photos and these sort of ideas of, take like a daisy for example, and it might be in somewhere in northern France, in the northeastern France or something, and the Germans have a tank rolling over it, or maybe the British have a tank going over it, and the daisy just holds so much beauty and impact, but in contrast to its surroundings, it holds so much more. But alone, it holds so much. To have a life, it holds so much. We sort of all hearken and shine and bring so much light. And I think everything in its own right has so much meaning and power that they all equally, individually, every item in this room has almost an aura of a shine. It has a shine that has so much meaning in it, and it brings off so much light of life. But I think there are things that give off more than others. But I don't think humans have a larger. I think they may have a larger connection with God, maybe. like things like monks and stuff. Maybe they have a, but that's a thing in submission, and I don't really want to go down that path right now. It's a point to say about this video, but I don't know about the submission part right now. I'm focusing right on the meaning. So everything does have that equal amount of meaning, and everything does. Every man does too, and I take man as every gender. But and I'm gonna spin this back on writing, and I know it sounded like a jumble mess so far, but through the ages, there's been a reflection on that, on the importance of everyone, and on the meaning of everything. There's authors I couldn't give two shits about because they're not my cup of tea, or I just don't know. So if you tell me right now, oh, listen to so and so, this is really great. I don't know the, I don't have that feeling in my heart of the great. But if you come to me and you say, oh, read this from Steinbeck, it's great, I'd feel the weight of that great, because there's a thing I can latch onto. And I look throughout the ages, and I have the Odyssey in my mind. I have Beowulf in my mind, Shakespeare in my mind, and all the way up to something I'd read recently, not recent, but 2 years ago or something, Normal People by Sally Rooney. Um, and I'd look at Steinbeck and Hemingway and Lovecraft and Dostoevsky and so on. They all have so much meaning in their work, but somehow together it explodes with beauty, you know? Um, and I try to question this. I'm only gonna be like, no, how do I say? It's really complex in my mind, at least. I'm not smart. The meaning of my writing, it is excelled in comparison with other writers, without a doubt. I don't want to be the greatest of all time. I want to be among many greats, because we all have the potential to be great writers. We all have the potential to create beautiful stories. And I just want to be among that echelon of men who chose the discipline of storytelling and who did it decently well. That it connected with many, and also it had such a tasteful artistic expression. That's where I'd like to lie. But as I say that, and the reason why I touched on all that random Guga back in the earlier parts of the video is there's so much meaning everywhere. So much meaning, and so much purpose, and so much importance. And I'm going for something that's so small. Ink on paper, or it could be online, which then again I would still put down to physical servers. A story from a man's mind transferred onto paper. How can that have so much meaning? And I think this is where the paradox of my thoughts are coming across, is that as a person, I think I feel like my life is important a lot of the times, but we all struggle with feeling like it's not. And also, if you feel it's important, there's also that part of pride, which makes you think that your life is more important than other people's. Or that what you're doing is more important than somebody else's. You need to get on the bus before they do because you need to do this and they don't. Or you need to skip the queue because you have to go somewhere and they don't. It's such a lack of understanding. There's a lack of connectivity there. There's an isolation. Well, we shouldn't be isolated. We should be connected to all of humankind. And I think the point I'm trying to make there is that we shouldn't feel the depression and the lack of meaning in our own lives, and nor should we feel the hyper importance of our own lives. Neither exists. But we, in our lives, have a deep intrinsic meaning, and so does everything else. And we get to choose. This is my, as is Camus' point, choice and action are so important. We get to choose what we do. And I don't know how great and grand it would be. I don't know how important it is. And I put on a really emphasized, almost posh accent when I'm speaking in this video and in most videos, because I don't think my accent will get across if I let it loose. But the importance of stories from Newcastle, from Byker, from Heaton, from Jesmond, from Walkergate, from Gosforth, from Gateshead, from Felling, you can go on. Even like Rooker Beach or Winlayton. I'd say Winlayton, not Winlayton. From Winlayton. These stories, I could say they have no meaning because of the expressed and already shown meaning of things that have happened. But it's a point that I get to be a part of that. And that's where the meekness and humility lie. Most men who seek greatness, I believe, seek to become more important than anybody else. Realistically, how can I become more important than Alexander the Great? How can I become more important than Napoleon? How can I become more important than even Trump or Putin? I'm not. I'm very small. But I take that small thing I have and I try to make that bloom. I try to make that shine, as I said with the auras. I try to make that shine as much as I possibly can by perfecting and working on that one thing that I say that I must do. And I'd watched this video this morning. A friend sent me it, and it was a story about there's a BBC thing maybe somewhere or Nat Geo of a penguin who's with his buddies, and they go off to the feeding grounds, and the guy, the narrator, he's got such a beautiful voice. I think he's somewhere Scandinavian or something, and he talks about how this penguin, if they were to drag him back to the group, would still run off to those mountains, as he's going right now, 70 kilometers away. And I feel like our pursuit for finding a greatness or finding purpose in life is somewhat like that. Simultaneously, I feel as though I already have it, but it's paradoxical too. I think our pursuits feel like that. That under the guise of being a modern person, it's as though look, everything else has already happened. This society only serves to push when I feel there's the highest pleasure ratio. There's so much. There's YouTube, there's TikTok, then you come on the telly, there's Netflix and so on, and then there's ready-made meals, and in that ready-made meal is there's a fridge, and electricity, and then there's hot water, and there's a roof, and there just seems to be such little struggle to fun ratio. You probably hear that music. I don't want to pause this video, but there seems to be so much of disparagement in that ratio. Yet I don't think that I want to live in that. I see that penguin, and I see his efforts, And I can't even say that too, because the Babylonians and the Romans, they loved their pleasure, but I feel like that penguin in some way. Although the penguin is foolish, it is foolish, but there are men out there who have needed to go after something to the point of their death. I don't think mine requires my death, which is the only difference here. And I can't judge in saying that somebody's passion and purpose lead them towards death can be a good or bad thing. I don't have to. I can't call that one. But that's the beauty of it. They get to do theirs, I get to do mine. And I'm thinking about deleting this video because I know my thoughts aren't fully together. And mine is just, it's seemingly so minute. Inside of a society which seems to have such a ratio for pleasure, over struggle. Where does the importance lie in my actions? In Byker, in Newcastle, in all them. It feels like it has none, but it's not that it has none. It's that everything has meaning. And as a writer, I'm taking on such a seemingly minute task. I'm not taking into account the blacksmiths. I'm not taking into account the weavers. I'm not taking into account the kids who work in Chinese factories, or the people who dig cobalt in Congo, or the I believe it might be Ghana, Ivory Coast, with the cocoa beans. And I'm not thinking about that one dude on a gas station in America on a big long road. I don't know. There seems to be so much meaning and purpose in everywhere in life, and everyone has their own. And I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, well, where does mine lie? I have equally the same amount of importance and meaning as everybody else, but it's the fact that I get to be a part of it. The fact that I get to be a part of this, and I get to put my stamp on it. And someone could say, look, if you look at Steinbeck, he's not really that important compared to human history, and I get that. But to me, it's important, obviously, and I think it's just about looking at that self and looking at that and thinking, okay, well, do I want to sit here and be depressed, or I want to kill myself, The philosophical suicide. Do I want to sit here and just say I have no meaning because everything else has meaning and I'm just so little and just so minute? Or do I sit back and say, what if I were to give my life the most amount of meaning I could possibly give it? What if and by the way, this video is 30 minutes long and it's nothing as intellectual or poignant as what I've seemed to have heard from Camus is crazy. This is just rambling thoughts of a guy who woke up, But what if I were to give myself so much purpose and so much meaning that it's ineffable, it's inexpressible? What if I were to just go for it? I have so much pride in being a northerner. I have so much pride in being from Byker. I've got so much pride in finding purpose in writing. I've got so much pride in the arts and humanities. I've got so much pride in mankind. I've got so much love, not pride, in all these things. So much love for these things that I know life in whatever you want to think. If you're a 7-day creationist, or if you're an evolution type of fella, in the timing and meaning of the entire universe, wherever that meaning lies, whatever it is, I don't know, I can't explain what I'm trying to say, but inside of all of that, I'm here, and I'm here now, and I just get to make that choice of, do I roll over and die, or do I dream? Like I said at the start of the video, and I'm thinking about dreaming, and my dreams have haircuts, my dreams have showers, my dreams have brushing my teeth, my dreams have reading a book, my dreams have writing, my dreams have choosing what clothes I wear, all these sorts of things. My dreams are real. My dreams are real, My dream is real. It's to live a life of being a writer, not to be a writer, to live the life as a writer. And I don't know where I can drag and pull the meaning from, but I know everything has meaning. And that's the basis of my mind. Everything has meaning. As Camus puts it, and this is where we differ. 30 minutes, I'll not put it on longer than 35. And by the way, my backing of this entire video isn't Camus. It's not. But I want to say he was one of the influences. And this is where, and I know, by the way, I could go on and on and on. But if you get to this page of 17, especially in the Penguin Classic, like here it'll be explained. But I'm just going to take like a small bit of it. Of whom and of what indeed can I say, I know that. This heart within me I can feel and I judge that it exists. This world I can touch and I likewise judge that it exists. There ends all my knowledge and the rest is construction. I think Camus' world and my world are vastly different. I'm judging that so many other things exist, really purely just off of that whimsy in my mind. Someone being as like logical and intellectual as that guy, he's going to take so many. He's not going to think of things that I do, because to most people I'm just a little dreamer, a little dreamer who's a kid. But I'm going to judge that all these things exist and live by them. At the end of the day, this video shouldn't be as long as it is. Everything has meaning, everything has importance, but don't be delusional and say that yours has more than anybody else's. Be a part of it, and just be a part of it with some gusto and with some love for the game. Have some skin in the game, chuck them dice, whatever it is, and just try it. At the end of the day, I know that if I really write my magnum opus of a story about Biker, then realistically it's not going to mean anything. It's not going to have that impact that I feel I needed to have. But it's not about that. It's about me doing the impact for me and me doing the impact for something. But it's not for anybody else. But I'm a part of everybody else, And there's going to be people who are going to typeset. There's people who are going to put my book on shelves, who have dreams of their own, and there's going to be people who buy my book and it's going to be on their bookshelves while they have kids and they do their lives and they go out to their jobs, and it's okay. I can't, there's so much meaning that gets lost when you try to put yourself in billions of other people, but I'm saying look at the meaning in billions of other people, I seldom think about this stuff, and I don't have a good argument for it, and this video shouldn't be as long as it should be, and I haven't used the words that I probably should have used, and this sounds like a massive idiotic slop video. But I know one thing, and that sounds so dramatic, and I sound like I'm going to whip out a quote, but I think he's right. This heart I can feel. And I have my different influences to Camus, so it's vastly different. This heart I feel, this world I can touch. And for you, you'll all have your individual, unique perspectives on that. And that's where society lies, that's where humankind lies. All of our perspectives. Your heart you can feel, your world you can touch. Take them dreams. Do them. As I've been reading Camus, by the way, side tangent, I'm going to completely destroy the beauty of this video. Camus has a lot of individualism, whatever it might be in his. Do not touch a child. Do not swear at other people. Do not hurt other people. Just don't harm anybody else. Don't be mean. Be kind. Don't do them crazy awful things, but the dream do it. Don't watch this video and say, he's right, I have to go and harm as many people as I possibly want. No, take that dream, be that artist, be that writer, be that musician. I don't know what you want to do. Fashion, what do you want to do? Do you want to knit? Do you want to serve other people really well? Whatever it is. This is not for anybody else, and I feel like this video might be the most incoherent one I've done so far. But inside of all of this, there is an idea that we might feel like we're small and our lives have no meaning, but we get to be a part of something that is so meaningful. And I think that's why we have so much meaning. And all of these words seem so final, but they're not so final. And they're also, past 35 minutes, they're also wavering. They're also capable of change and adaptability through each person, their perspective and the way they've heard it. And even the words themselves, I could change every word in this video, every single word in this video, and every single argument, and try to word it a different way and maybe get to the same point. It's fair enough. That is a possibility. So this video itself, this video in its entirety, doesn't have the meaning, doesn't have the purpose, doesn't have so much importance that I think it should have. But in its own right, through its interaction with everything else, come back to the video. I'm trying to say something, and I think I've said what I needed to say. And with that, please just dream. Even if you think that dream has so little meaning or has no meaning at all, don't push people aside to try and make that dream possible. But if you need to kickstart it, if you just realize that, you know what, yes, the dream I have is important to me. And there's something in that. There's not something selfish, there's not something prideful. It's not prideful to go to university being architecture. It's not prideful. You know? It's just, there's things that an individual has to do. And I believe that's their dream. And go and interact with people. Go give money to the homeless. But do your dream. Give it meaning. And give your life some good meaning. Why is this video so long? Get a job. Actually, go right!